Okay, great. Okay, great. Thanks very much. Okay.
All right. Well, hello. Hello, everyone. All right. So this is, Jenny's here. Fantastic. And Gregory, wonderful to have you. And Gail and Victoria. Fantastic. I think that, I don't know about you, but this is my first time using StreamYard. So I didn't know exactly what to expect. But welcome. It seems we've got a few other people who might be joining a little bit later. I have asked them to come in towards the next half of the show because we can only have 6 people here at a time that are on camera. So thank you so much to the Global Grief Conference, Tony and your team, Nathan, and other people behind the scenes who you've been working for months to pull this Global Grief Conference, 72 hours of free workshops and talks for the entire weekend, live on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and also on Twitch, which is, I've heard about it, but I don't know much about it. So, but I am always learning, as we all are. So welcome to our show and tales, past and present. And I have been lucky enough to host this event for the Let's Reimagine community. That's actually how I met Jenny, and have hosted this for several years. Okay, whose music is on? We've got a phone call coming in. Okay, I don't know how to change that because this is not what Okay. All right. So I'm not familiar, so I don't know. I usually am really good with Zoom, knowing how to to mute people and manage the room. But I am not familiar with it here. So anyway, welcome to Show and Tale, Past and Present. My name is Martie McNabb. I have hosted these events now going on 10 years as of last month. Mostly, I hosted these, about 120 of them, live in person in New York City. But as we all have, we've had to all pivot and learn this new thing, the online gatherings, the online events. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to connect with a bigger audience through this opportunity, but it also presents certain challenges as well, learning new technology and all of that as it goes. But anyway, I am delighted to once again co-host with my friend Victoria Noe, who is a grief, I call her a friend grief expert. I don't know if there's any certifications in that field at this point.
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm glad to offer it.
Not yet. But we have both dealt with a lot of loss from our friends or friend loss over the years. And it presents unique challenges. So again, show and tales for those of you who have not been to one of mine. Most of you, I do believe, have, but it's basically the reminiscent of elementary school show and tell. So you show an object or a photo and you share its story. So today we've invited you to bring a photo or an object of somebody who's passed away, who you would like to share your story of your relationship, your connection with this loved one, and why you hold on to a particular object so that you can remember this person. So I will turn it over to my co-host to start the process and to welcome the rest of you to share the stories of the things that matter to you. And please feel free to add anything in the chat for us to be aware of, and so you can participate even if you aren't on video right now. So take it away, Victoria.
Oh, thanks, Marty. Do you want me to do my show and tell at the same time?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Why
great.
not?
As Marty said, we met in Brooklyn one Mother's Day, I think Mother's Day weekend, and the rest is history. What can I say? And we work very well together, sort of as a tag team, and we're both, very sort of synced into the same things. As far as friend grief, Gregory is my witness here, because in 2006, I was having tea with his sister Dell, whose daughter went to the same grade school as my daughter. She was a year behind my daughter at the Academy of the Sacred Heart in Chicago. And Dell and Ramona were just back from spring break. They had gone to Paris for a week. And so she was catching me up to date on all that. And I said, I have this idea for a book. And she's like, what is it? And I said, it's stories of people who are grieving the death of a friend. And at the time, Dell was in remission for the second time, I think. Not the first time, I know. Second time, I guess, from ovarian cancer. And she was incredibly talented and accomplished. And she said, sure, do it. And I said, I've never written a book before. She says, oh, that's okay, just do it. And 6 months later, she was dead. And I held that promise in the guilty part of my mind for a while, and tried and couldn't do it. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. And one morning, 3 years later, I woke up from a very strange dream, the kind where you wake up and you think, I should write that down, but you never do that. And I wrote it down. And it was completely unrelated to everything. But when I finished writing it down, the book came into my head. It was very clear what the book was going to be like. And so a year later, I decided to break it up into smaller books, each on a different topic. So the first one, which is called Friend Grief and Anger, When Your Friend Dies and No One Gives a Damn, was inspired by her and my experience when she was dying and afterwards. And 5 more little books followed that. And I keep saying it's not what I thought I was going to be doing at this age. But I feel like I don't have a choice, because every time I start complaining about it, I hear her voice. And for a while it was, if you'd write the damn book, you wouldn't have to worry about that. And now it's something different, because after writing a different book about straight women in the AIDS community, I'm now writing a new book, and it's about grieving friends lost during COVID. And that's how I decided to choose which object to talk about today, because I was on the fence about it. So the object I chose is my high school ring. I graduated from a Catholic all-girls high school in St. Louis, suburbs of St. Louis, Narings Hall, taught by the Sisters of Loretto, who taught me from kindergarten through high school, taught my dad and his uncle in grade school. Very progressive nuns. The school was referred to in the 60s. I graduated in 1970. School was referred to as dangerously liberal. It is still defined that way. The nuns were arrested for protesting the war, that kind of thing. And it was my first semester there that I met one of my best friends, Christy. And Christy Adams was everything I was not. She was, her family, sort of old money, impeccable manners, incredibly fashionable dresser, very effortlessly, always perfectly put together, even in her uniform. I mean, she wore brogues. No one looked stylish wearing brogues, but she did. And she was very shy, but we gravitated toward each other. Part of it was our love of musical theater. And so we were, we just became friends very easily. And we graduated in 1970. When we got those rings in the spring of 1969, we posed for a picture behind school, and we all had our hands like this to show off our ring. And that went in the yearbook, and she and I were two of the girls in the picture. So the summer before we started college, she wrote me a letter and said that she had heard that people were closer to the people they went to college with than high school, and she hoped that didn't happen to us. And it didn't. I mean, she was the kind of person, I've only known a couple in my whole life where I have never heard a negative comment about her. Not that she was perfect. She was not perfect, believe me. But she always had other people in mind. She was always thinking about, is what you're doing kind to somebody else? Is what you're doing helpful to somebody else? Does it lift them up? And she really, she lived her faith and this whole philosophy her whole life. And she was the most loyal friend I think I've ever had. Never missed a birthday or Christmas. I always got cards right on time. And she was there for all the important events in my life. And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago almost, I didn't get a birthday card from her. And I had never not gotten a birthday card from her. And I thought, well, that's strange. And about a month or so later, I got an email from her. I'm sorry, it's been kind of crazy here. I'm sending your card. She didn't send a card. And what I didn't know at the time, until months later, was that she had been diagnosed with melanoma. And while she was the primary caregiver for her mother, 95-year-old mother who had dementia. So while, COVID was going on, she was going through radiation treatments for that. right around the holidays, end of 2020, she and her mother were both diagnosed with COVID. They were infected by one of her mom's caregivers. And they both survived, but then her mother was diagnosed with cancer and died a month later. Because of the COVID restrictions, I could not drive down to St. Louis for her mom's funeral. It was, there was barely not even the whole family could attend the funeral at that time because of the restrictions that funeral homes and cemeteries had. The last time I saw her in person was July of last year. And I was down in St. Louis, we had lunch with another friend, and she looked great. But she was complaining about this strange pain that she had in her side, and that she was going to have to call her doctor about that. And she did. And in September, her sister moved down from Chicago to St. Louis to live with her because the melanoma had spread. And she was getting immunotherapy, and she was very weak. She was completely lucid, pain was under control, but weak. And I decided I was going to be sure that I kept in touch with her on a regular basis. And we didn't have to talk about what she was going through because Christy was a human Google when it came to gossip about other people. If you mentioned a name to her, she could go on a rip for 20 minutes about what that person was doing, whether we knew them or not, but she knew what everyone was doing. And it was never salacious. It was always just, did you hear? And my greatest achievements have been calling her and saying, did you hear about that? And she would say no. It's like, oh my God, I know something you don't know. She was very sick at Thanksgiving and had to have spinal surgery because the cancer had spread to her back, her spine. And she was doing physical therapy and hated it. I mean, does anyone like physical therapy? And I kept saying, are you better? No, I don't think so. I said, well, what could you do when you got there and what can you do now? And she's like, yeah, okay, fine. And so I would call her every week or so. I would send her cards in between. And in the middle of January, I called her, and the original tumor was growing again. And she could not get radiation until physical therapy ended. And my husband kept saying, do you want to go down and visit her? And I said, I can't visit her. Only her sister and one of her brothers is allowed to visit her. This is the best I can do. And our 50th high school reunion has been postponed twice because of COVID, but it's, fingers crossed, going to happen the beginning of June. And she worked on every reunion committee. And our last conversation in January, I said, I don't want to go to the reunion without you. And she said, I don't want you to go without me. And a few days later, they operated on her spine again, and she was now paralyzed from the waist down. I knew more about her medical condition than anyone outside the family. And because she was very private, I couldn't tell anyone. Only one other friend had even an inkling of it. And I was grateful that they told me that she confided in me, but it was a very heavy burden to bear all those months that I could not share it. We finally convinced her to let our classmates know that she was in hospice. And they responded as we knew they would immediately. She was deluged with cards telling her how much they loved her. So I got the call from her sister that she had died in the middle of February. And as soon as I saw her sister's number on the caller ID, I knew she was gone. And I think I have less of the regrets that I've had with a lot of people I loved who died, because it was so important to me to let her know how loved she was. And so I didn't feel like there was much unsaid other than I wish she had given me her sources on gossip, some of the gossip she got, because it was so good, but she didn't. So the next day I was packing to go down to St. Louis for the funeral, and her sister texted me and said the family would be honored if you would give the eulogy. And my first thought was, oh, hell no, I don't know how I'm going to get through the funeral. I'm sure as hell not giving the eulogy. And I had to talk with myself for about half an hour. And I finally decided, okay, she would be annoyed if I didn't do it. So I did. And I asked some of our classmates for input. And I wrote and wrote and wrote and practiced for 2 days. And I knew that I could get through the whole thing till like maybe the third to the last sentence. And then I would get choked up. So I thought, okay, I could do this. And got to the funeral. And as soon as I saw her casket, I started to tear up. And I thought, okay, this is not good. And when it was time, I walked up to the podium and I looked out at the audience, and hardly anyone was there, not because of COVID, but because it was the middle of an ice storm of all things. But it was live streamed, so I was on camera. And I looked out and my voice cracked on the first sentence. And I thought, oh God, this is not good at all. And I spoke for like 5 or 6 minutes. I don't remember how long it was. And I got almost to the end. And just thinking about it, I got almost to the end and I really thought I couldn't do it. I really thought I couldn't do it. And it was a huge struggle, huge. But I got through it. And I got a lot of great feedback from our classmates and other friends who watched it, which doesn't matter. I mean, it was like I meant every word was true. You know, every word was true, and every word came from the heart. But, you know, it really got me thinking as I'm working on this book about grieving friends who died during COVID. It's not just COVID that people die from, but the limitations we have had these last 2 years affect everybody. You know, I couldn't go to my dad's best friend died. I could not go to his funeral in Michigan. And just the knowledge that you cannot do that very, very normal way of respecting someone you love just compounds the grief, I think, that you have, and has made it so difficult for all of us. So that's my story about this ring, you know. And last week I got an email from the girl in our class who's in charge of the reunion. And we have do you know what Class Creators is? It's a website for reunion classes, you know, to gather. And she emailed me and said, would you like to be an admin on the site and replace Christy? And again, I was like, well, no, I don't really need anything else to do. But then I knew it was like, since she put it that way, I had to say yes. But, you know, anyway, that's my story. I'll stop talking.
Well, and I appreciate that, you know, it is so true. As you know, I've lost, as of now, 25 or 26 people since the start of 2020. You know, probably 90% of them are friends, and I haven't been able to send sympathy cards or attend, you know, memorial services for most of them. So I appreciate that. And was so interesting is I am now on, I was there for a minute. I saw her. So, but I am now in Silver City, New Mexico, and on my way to Tucson. And Gail, you'd appreciate, I was thinking about you earlier today, because right next door to the Elks Lodge, where there's a little RV spot here, the cemetery is here, just down the street. So I spent my morning, but it's a Catholic cemetery, in a predominantly, you know, Spanish speaking area. So there were flowers, and there was Christmas decorations, and there were wind chimes, and there were seats, and a very different way of honoring our dead. And that is a perfect segue into introducing Gail Rubin, who is a certified thanatologist.
Yes.
I got it almost. which means death educator, and that's not death like death. It's death educator, and she and she. I was delighted to meet Gail when a friend who's a funeral director out in Brooklyn, Amy Cunningham, who of course dealt with the first wave of the COVID deaths in New York City. And when she heard that I was going out to Albuquerque to reconnect and rekindle a relationship with a girlfriend I met 30 years ago, she's like, oh, you need to meet Gail. So, and boy, am I glad, because she has a way with words and a way with lots of things. And I just sent her a message recently saying, hey, can you do this? Like literally, I think it was yesterday. And she said, yes, I think I can. So I want to turn it over to Gail, and then we'll move on to the rest. And I saw why here for a second. I don't know what's happening. I thought we could have 6 people up, but maybe we can only have 5. But anyway, Gail, without further ado, I'm going to turn over the floor to you and have you share the thing that matters.
Well, thank you, Marty. So good to see you. I know you're in the area. It's still a couple hours drive away, and you're in Brooklyn.
Yes, I am. The band's name is Brooklyn.
So there are so many things around my house, objects that represent different people in my life. It was kind of hard to choose, especially on short notice. But what I chose to share with you today is this lovely Mikasa plate. This belonged to my great aunt Jean. And Aunt Jean was married, but never had any kids. And so she was my mom's aunt. And she had wonderful taste, as you can tell. This is a really gorgeous plate. And the oh no, it's Noritake. You can see the Noritake symbol on the bottom. And
Oh,
I wound up inheriting this. My mom got it first. My mom's still alive, but we've gone through a whole saga of downsizing for my parents, for both my mom and dad, who had to go into assisted living last year. And there's a whole COVID story there. And
sure
just
is.
going through selling their house here in Albuquerque and downsizing um, their possessions and letting go of a lot of things that I had no idea. They later on, I was thinking, when we downsize my parents' stuff, at least they're still alive. We don't have to be mourning their loss. But it just made it harder because they were like, what happened to this? What happened to that? You let that go? Oh no. So I got a different kind of grief from that process. But this plate, I have had this plate a really long time. And I bring it out when I entertain for special occasions. And part of that is it's a very lovely dish, and I don't want to, risk chipping it or anything. But when I bring it out, it does make me think of my Aunt Jean and how funny she was and upbeat, and she could sew, and she was very encouraging to me, her grandniece. She was my grandmother's sister, and so I have nice memories of her and some of the nice things that she had collected during her lifetime had come to me. So I think one of the lessons to take away from an object like this is one special thing could be a lot better than a whole boatload full of other stuff that it's like, this is too much to deal with.
Absolutely. Oh my God. No, and that's what Gail and I, when I was in Albuquerque over the winter time, I had the pleasure of going to Gail's home and getting interviewed by her on her, because she has a YouTube channel. And maybe you could drop that in the chat, or we can. Not really sure how it works here. But is it a good goodbye?
Well, that's my website. agoodgoodbye.com is my website. My YouTube channel is Gail Rubin, or The Family Plot, if you search for that, because that's the name of my blog, is The Family Plot blog.
Yes.
So,
and her book is excellent. And we've talked, she had brought me into her home to take a look at all her photos, because one of the things I've been doing for boxes and boxes. But it's a beautiful family history. But as Gail and I both agree, everything, it's wonderful to get these things, but if they're not organized, they're not curated, like this object that you just shared with us. If it's not curated, it's just in boxes or bags or storage units or attics or basements, and you can't enjoy it and share the story, then why bother? So anyway, it's really important to tell the stories. And maybe if you tell the stories, you don't have to hold on to all the stuff. So I thank you very much. Yes, kicking.
Amy Cunningham did the introduction to this book, Kicking the Bucket List, 100 Downsizing and Organizing Things to Do Before You Die. So this is a great, easy to digest information. About 2/3 of it is creative ways to get rid of your stuff. And the last third is what you need to do to plan ahead for end of life issues. So
one of Gail's taglines is funeral planning for those who don't plan to die.
Yes.
which is, I think, most of us here in the United States, it seems. And I don't know where else everybody is joining us from. But I'm sorry that I'm getting distracted, but I have people who are saying they're having a little difficult time getting on to watch. And so I'm like trying to respond to those as well. So without further ado, though, I would like to, I know Victoria invited invited Gregory to join us, and he so graciously accepted kind of last minute, and didn't have any challenges on getting onto this link. So I'm grateful to have you here, Gregory. I look forward to hearing the story of a thing that keeps the memory of a loved one alive, and you can remember them by. So please take the floor.
Okay, I'm mute. I didn't know that we were doing show and tell, but I do. Vicki mentioned my sister Dell, and Dell was a writer, and I have a book of hers. I'm wondering if my virtual screen is going to let you see it. It's called Death of a Parent. Aha. So far, so good. And it's the reflections for adults mourning the loss of a mother or father. And in this case, she was writing about both of our parents because they had both been deceased. And she had her pastor at the time, Reverend William Keneally, wrote meditations after chapters, because really what the book is vignettes around families that are quite troubled, some of them, in their grieving, because for one thing, a lot of the things like, by the way, Gail, I love the title of your book. I'm gonna get it. People who had left no will, people who had left families in some kind of turmoil, and usually that's the case. Both of our parents died of cancer. So there was, going forward, you knew what was coming. And I always tell people, some part of you expects that because death is expected, there will be less pain and less grief. And that's not the case. It just simply does not work that way. In fact, I think in some ways it's even greater because you have all this anticipation on top of the oncoming grief waiting for you. And, there's just, but I'm so glad that my sister wrote this book, because first I can recognize elements of our family. I mean, she borrowed, a couple of things and pieces, there's no question. And I look for myself, I said, well, where was she telling, where was she leaving me a message here? And, and the meditations are quite good because, sometimes you just need someone to help you with emotional closure. It has been, my God, 15 years since my sister passed away. And that's it's nice because after this time there's a reemergence of missing her, I think, for me right now. And her daughter is here. Her daughter was just about 12 when she died, and now she's a young adult and living here in California where I am. And that's been very interesting. I'll tell you what the most interesting thing was. One of the things my sister did is she kept copious diaries from different parts of her life, and they're very personal. They're very specific, and she wasn't sure she wanted me reading them. She really didn't think she wanted her daughter to ever have. And I told her, I said, I'm going to find one you can read. And I've been looking now for years. And I really, every time I think this is the one that she can read, no, I think, I don't think she ever needs to know this.
Oh, God.
And I don't want to have to, what do they call when you go in and mark something up? What's the word? Someone help me. Oh, anyway, when the black marker that secret agents and government agencies use to, I wrote the word.
Redacting.
Thank you, redacting. And I said, I don't want to do that. It's like, it'd be like disgracing the book for one thing. But the other thing she did was she was on television in Chicago doing reflections for the show called, there was two shows called 30 Good Minutes and a different morning or something morning. I'm sorry, it's not coming to me. And so I have all of these reflections that she wrote. In fact, I got to be there when she was recording a couple of them. And so all of the when she died, the station collected all of them on a CD. And and I'm terrified now. I mean, I should really copy the CD before something happens to it. But it's just, and a lot of them are actually on YouTube. But what's nice about it is, she wrote them very carefully, very specifically around faith, around remembrance, around love and letting go. And one of the things that's been helping me, one of the things I'm doing is I'm letting go of clutter. I have all of her writing. I have all this stuff that she wanted me to have, and a whole bunch of stuff that she didn't want me to have, that she was trying to get rid of so I wouldn't have to go through it and fail. So I still have it. And then and she was the keeper of my parents' things, so that stuff's there. And for a while there, I was beating myself up. You're paying all this money for stuff that you should have let go of. But I've had to move a couple times, and I've gotten rid of about half of it. But there's a lot of writing, a lot of plays, a lot of stories, and that's not a problem. It's the physical things that take up, that gather the real dust. And but I'm really glad at this point that I have the ability to really look at it and enjoy it. I mean, I have it now, and it's actually quite precious. And I'm really grateful that I'm, because it's taken me a while to really get ready to get rid of stuff, to let go. And right away I gave away some things that I wanted people to have. But it's stunning to me how some people get to just live on in our consciousness and in our spirits and our souls. And because she was such a good writer, that really helps. And the reflections, I mean, I literally listened to one yesterday and I went, this is just the one talking about letting go of carnal clutter. And that, it's very important to have a space where you can communicate with God, but you have to keep that place clean and you have to keep dusting it. In other words, to keep that connection pure. And she said, and if you don't, you lose that connection. She says, but God will actually help you take out the trash for you. All you have to do is ask him. I've been praying for years, and I've really gotten the right answers. And now there's this new call to, okay, time for another purge, time to share some things. And and because I have, because of COVID, because of just this generation, I'm at the kind of tail end of the baby boomers. We're losing a lot of friends and people, and I'm a member of 12-step rooms, let's put it that way. And a lot of us are in that, space of losing longtime mentors and friends and just, family. And my companion's parents are still both alive. They're 105 and 102. And you can only imagine, you made it. And I'll just start by saying that the great thing about having people who are all experiencing loss at the same time is we become a really great comfort to each other, and in all kinds of realms and ways of life. And really diverse group have become very good at whether you've lost a parent or a sibling or a job or a house or a pet.
My wife, how is it on a 5th year?
And understanding how that works. So it's very and Vicky's books have been such a help to me because she wrote when Friendship Necessary.
That means so much to me.
It's so true. The first book, she has this chair that was that I can just see my sister sitting in on the cover, and their friendship was really powerful and really important. And she and our friend Tracy Carruthers are the ones that have stayed in contact with me over the years, and it's just such a gift to see the torch pass and the writing continue, because you touch so many souls when you tell a story that resonates with people, and that's what you've done, Vicki. You really resonate with so many people in so many different areas, and I'm really looking forward to your new book. I really am. I'm excited about it already. And that's enough out of me.
Oh, good. No pressure. Good. Okay.
No pressure at all.
No, but it's been 15 years. It's been 15 and a half years. And if you mention Dell's name to anyone, the first thing they're likely to say is, I think of her every day. And that is not an exaggeration. I may not think of her every day, but she will make her presence known to me when I need to have her presence known. And it's usually in some kind of melodramatic way. Just saying.
I know exactly what you mean. I do.
Well, I really appreciate that you sharing the story of your sister Gregory. It it kind of reminds me again of, you know, I think that there can be extremes when it comes to cleaning out or clearing out homes. It's like, you know, either it's the Marie Kondo way or it's the hoarder way. Like, and to me, I think it's so critical for everyone to, you know, to if you can. I mean, we've known, God knows, all of us have known people in New York City. They lost, you know, someone passed away, and they have to clear out the apartment in, you know, by the end of the month, or otherwise they have to come up with the rent. So I understand it's not always possible, but you know, I think if you do it in the spur of the moment and you just kind of force it through, sometimes there can be those regrets. But like you're going through, it seems like you're like, oh, okay, now's time again. Like, and you'll know when that time is, you know, that, okay, now it's time to do a little bit more cleaning out. What were you going to say, Gail?
My friend Gary, who everybody else,
Can everybody mute yourself? Because there's
a lot of, you know, that helps. Thank you. Okay, so my friend Gary was a bachelor who rented a house for 20 years, and he was on home hospice care for 3 months. And my husband and I were the ones who found him dead on the bathroom floor, which was sad, but not unexpected. But then it was toward the end of the month of October. He very thoughtfully left a check for the next month's rent sitting on the table. And so we did have some working time, but his two sisters who came from California, they just wanted to get it done in 3 days. And because he had an upon my death letter that sketched out all the information you needed for his online accounts, for his bank and his credit card and his retirement pension and utilities, and 3 pages of this 11-page document was devoted to describing his multiple guitars, their history and value. When his sisters arrived the next week, we had a plan to disperse his possessions in 3 days. The guitars were really the only thing he had of great value, and they were professionally crated and shipped to California. The sisters took the guitars. But then we invited friends to come and take whatever they wanted, just 1 day only. And he had hundreds of vinyl albums and books, DVDs, games, mismatched household goods. He was a bachelor. And we wound up donating most of the albums, the vinyl, and the books to Goodwill. And it filled the cargo area of my Subaru Outback. And then the next day, a service called Junk King cleared out what was left. 3 men, 45 minutes, clean house. Poof. So you can do it, but it helps to have, you know, guidance from the deceased in that regard. Oh, you're muted. Martie, you're muted.
all right. And I am going to go ahead and just one thing, Gregory, that I wanted to share. When you talked about the chair on Victoria's cover, it just reminded me, I picked up this art book, and it's called Cross-Cultural Chairs. And it's like participatory, or, you know, where people sat and connected over differences. And so I just thought, oh my God, I gotta see more of Victoria's and your sisters. Thank you for putting that in the chat. It is the private chat, Victoria. Yeah, this is all new. Like I don't even know how to put it on the public comments. So it's all new to me. But anyway, without further ado, I wanted to welcome Jenny, who I did, as I mentioned, meet at Let's Reimagine, another wonderful platform that offers all kinds of stuff around death and dying, end of life, and celebrating and honoring life. So Jenny, please take us away and share the object that you have.
Cool. Thank you for having me, Marty. This is amazing. I love stories. Like Marty said, we met on Reimagine, and I'm a grief coach. My company is Grieving Coach, and I do workshops, events, and podcasts. I host most of my stuff through Reimagine because they're just amazing. And so it's interesting that we're on this decluttering topic because that's where I got one of my items from, and I'm also wearing a shirt for the same person. So a few years ago, on my youngest's birthday, I got a text from my mom saying that her mom had died. And so we set up the funeral, and my mom's the family historian, so she has all of the history and the stories from all of her ancestors. And so they set up the date for the funeral and then told us all about it. And I and one of my brother's family went up and actually stayed in the house where my grandma died. And I actually stayed in the room that my grandma died in. I stayed in the room in the bed that was her bed. It was a little bit weird at first, but whatever. Death is death. It's a normal part of life. The sheets were all cleaned. My mom's sister-in-law took care of all of that and made the room as nice as possible. So it was fine. And then we were cleaning out the house, and it was just up to all of my mom's siblings and my brother's family that was there. We got to go in and take whatever we wanted because by that time she was the last one. My grandpa died about 10 years ago. And then with my grandma gone, there was no need for the stuff for the house or anything. So we were going through her jewelry, and I'm not a big jewelry person normally, but I always remember my grandma wearing pearls. Like that's the only jewelry that I saw that she wore. And so I wanted some pearl something just to remember her by. The interesting thing is I've never worn her pearls. I got like a few strands of pearls, but I've never worn them. My daughters wore them. Specifically, my youngest daughter, the one whose birthday was when my grandma died. She just turned 6. So, but I did find this little, oh, hold on, let me turn off my background. So you can see it. Maybe, oh, hold on. I remember how to, technology is new for me too, so.
I know. Oh, there we go.
So I'm working on it. It's loading. Okay, that works.
There we go.
So here is this little necklace. It's a heart with a little pearl in it. And that symbolizes my grandma for me. It has the pearl with her, but it has the simplicity and heart of my style. And so every time I wear this necklace, I get to think of my grandma. And so I'm going to show you my shirt too. My shirt is from a Colin Ray concert. And it's his song Love Me. And Colin Ray is one of my favorite artists. He's a country artist. And one of the reasons why he's top on my list is because 10 years ago when my grandpa died, for the funeral, my brother-in-law was asked to sing this song. And I remember in the funeral, my brother-in-law made it almost to the end and then he got choked up as he was singing this song, because this song is talks about how these two were going to meet and get married. But the girl's dad didn't like him or didn't want them to get married. And so it talks about how they wait for each other. If you get there before I do, don't give up on me. I'll meet you when my chores are through. I don't know how long I'll be. I don't know. And then it says love me. And then so that was a note that was left on the tree when they couldn't make their meeting time to go get married. So it talks about this journey of the couple, and then as they're going through their life, he ends up sharing this note with his grandson and reads it to him after she's died. And so when I heard, every time I hear that song, I think about my grandma and my grandpa. My grandpa died first, my grandma died next. And I think about the emotion that my brother-in-law had as he was singing this song for them. And it's just amazing. And so I actually had the chance to go see Colin Ray in person.
Oh,
and
great.
It was an incredible concert up in the boondocks of Utah. And my grandparents lived in the boondocks of Utah on the other side of the state.
Wonderful.
And they sang this song. Colin Ray sang Love Me in the concert.
Oh.
And I was able to get this shirt. And I was super excited, not only because it's one of my favorite songs. Colin Ray's one of my favorite artists. It reminds me of my grandpa's funeral and my grandpa and grandma's connection. It's also purple, and that's my grandma's favorite color. So it's like my power shirt. This is me. I'm awesome shirt. And it reminds me that my grandma's watching out for me, and she's here with me, and she's still very much a part of my life.
Oh, I love it. I love that. I love that T-shirt. Love me, and what it brings to you, and the locket. I mean, I guess it's not a locket, but the heart, the jewelry. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it. So it seems like I have one person in the waiting room. I guess Deborah D has gotten too busy and just didn't end up showing up. But we have somebody else, but I want to give Gail Rubin one last
I was going to say I could drop off to let her.
You what?
Drop off. Let you in. Let her in.
Yeah, let my friend Steve in. Thank you very much, Gail, for joining us. And do check. We'll have to continue the conversation over on the Global Grief Conference platform. So thanks again for being a last minute joiner. Have a great rest of your day. All right. Okay. So yes, there he is. You made it, Steve. All right. I don't know if you can hear us, but can you hear us, Steve? Nope, doesn't look like it. Well, in the meantime, while Steve's working on the tech of this, I'm going to welcome my friend, why? I'm just going to say why Harris, who I also met as part of Let's Reimagine. Jenny also offers, as she had mentioned, different workshops on that platform, and so does Y. I met her and we got to be friends during collaborator meetings when she was working up the nerve to start doing things. Mainly she'd been doing this work forever, but mainly it was the tech that was hard for her. But she's gotten over that and realizes it's not going to be perfect. No. Anyway, it's not going to be perfect. And so she went ahead and just did it. And there she is. And she is now offering different events on Let's Reimagine as well. And I've been grateful to have her be part of my my show and tales over the last year since or a year or two. So please share the story of the thing that you have.
Good afternoon. I tell you, my shirt says more than a survivor. And if I make StreamYard, I am more than a survivor. I just like to quickly mention that I am talking about my daughter. I like to call their names. My daughter is Leslie Michelle. We call her Mig Girl. And she transitioned on September the 1st, 2015. And she was a big basketball fan. And if you know, I'm from Memphis. So in Memphis, we're in the playoffs, and we have got this young man, Jay Morant, who is just fantastic. But I also had from Leslie, and I hope this will show up. You can see, but it's a playoff towel from 2015, and I wish she had been here. She's a diehard Grizzlies fan, and I would have loved for her to see that. But I just wanted to mention Leslie Michelle Fleming and the Grizzlies team in Memphis, Tennessee, doing playoff. So I wanted to do that, and then I want to mention my husband. His name is Silas L. Harris. I call him Honey Sai. And he is the person that I'm going to say the most about. He died on November the 21st, 2019. And my Honey Sai and I had been married for 44 years as of September. So I am still, here we are, I'm still counting months, 28 months or whatever it is. I'm still counting months. I haven't gotten to the point that I'll do years. I don't know when I'll do that. But being a part of the collaborators and being a part of this team has really helped me. I have been a grief facilitator, and I call myself a grief and end of life relationship facilitator, because I'm interested in the people that are going through and the relations that come from that. So I've got a lot of things on YouTube that I do on grief. I'm right now going through Grief Share, the support group, to learn how to follow some of their things. But I just want to quickly show pictures. This is, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it well, but this is a picture. Yeah, this is a picture of Leslie and her husband when they married in 95, and me and my husband. And so I wanted to be sure and share that. I'm trying to share as much as I can. And so what's it all about? This is my husband. I'm
Hold
trying
it
to
up.
find it.
There you go.
Okay.
Yes.
This is
Oh,
okay. This is my husband when he was 7 years old. He
oh
was
my God.
always dapper, and until he died, he always loved clothes and shoes. And so,
Beautiful.
and so my husband worked for 50 years, and I don't know if any of you all have heard of the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, where the Ducks march. But he worked for 50 years and retired in 2007. And they sent us to Las Vegas and all, gave us keys to the city and all of that. So he has always been my light. And this is something that I found in the garage because it's a light that he always had to have lots of light. So we've got all kind of lights and flashlights, and some of them are not working because I just went to the store trying to find just a regular flashlight, and it doesn't work. But in my husband's 50 years, he was a fan of Elvis. And so this is one of the CDs that he had. This is Elvis at Madison Square Garden. I don't know what year, but we had this CD that was in his pile. He has piles of vinyl, and I heard someone say how to get rid of the vinyl. So now I know I sent it to NAMI or Goodwill or something like that. So I wanted to share that. One of the other things that I wanted to share was the Memphis map and guide. And this also has Elvis on it. So I had this in the house. And I also had a tin that he gave me a candy, and it is Elvis Presley. It says Elvis Presley Burning Love. So I'm going to keep this forever. I try
Oh,
but
oh.
it is so sweet. It is so sweet. And one of the last things I want to read as we go, this was written on 9/3/19, 3 months before, 2 months before he died. It was me just writing them a note. We decided we were instead of buying all the cards, because I have so many cards, we would just try to do letters. And so this year I'm really working on doing notes to my family instead of sending them those store-bought cards that just sit there. So everybody's got a letter. My daughter, my baby daughter, had a birthday March 17th, and she was 57. And my son had his birthday yesterday on the 28th.
Yes,
And
yes,
he
I
did,
saw that picture of you. So
and he did
beautiful.
decade jumping. He turned 60. So I want to end with this as I just recognize and thank you all so much for just being here to hear me call their names. It says, may the Lord now show you kindness and faithfulness. This comes from 2 Samuel 2:6 NIV. And I said to him, thank you for being the best husband that God had provided and for all the things you do with love. And then I wrote on this side, dear honey sigh, thank you for always thinking about me. Thank you for the love and you bear, and to remind me that we are the perfect bear and butterfly. His honey size from bears, and butterfly Y is my name. The bear and butterfly team, these 55 years, that's how long we had known each other. We are blessed from the September 3rd, 1975, and God has seen us to come through. He has seen us to come through with all the favor and feast of forever. We are on assignment after being blessed to come to number 44. This was the last thing he read from me. Thank you all so much.
Oh, It's always such a pleasure hearing hearing your stories and seeing, like, when Jenny talked about the song, it just reminded me the last time you were on, you talked about all of the music that your husband was dearly loved, and how you're incorporating it into your life and remembering him by it. So
Yes.
yeah, so
And I
that
want to just
is
say one other thing, if I can, Marty. On May 29th, I will be 77. So I'm doing what we call Purple Source 77. I've been doing 100 days, and I am now at day 30 left to count. So I just wanted to just remember that, and remember that on April the 29th, on this 30th day left to count, that I was a part of this group.
Oh, thank you so much for being a part of it. Why, I love your work. Are you offering anything? And that's the same thing before. I know Jenny has to jump off, but are there any things that you're offering upcoming on Let's Reimagine so that we can pass on? It's letsreimagine.com. And there's hundreds of different events. And is there anything upcoming from either one of you?
It will be a year in May 29th when I did the first one. And so I don't know if I'm able to get on, but I will get on in one of the groups. That's one of my goals. I'm finishing the Grief Share support group and getting their take. And then I'm doing videos on YouTube during this period. So I will be on Let's Reimagine very soon. Thank you. Thank you for your
Very
encouragement.
good. Thank you so much always for joining me. And Jenny, do you have anything upcoming?
I do. Next weekend, the 7th of May, well, the first Saturday of every month, I do my What to Do When You Don't Do Grief workshop.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Yes,
And
yes.
so that's recurring every first Saturday. And then the second Saturday of the month, I do a workshop with a colleague called Managing Grief and Stress in the Workplace.
Oh,
Specifically for caregivers, end of life workers, death, dying, grief, medical professionals, healthcare people, managing the grief and the stress that we face every day in our professions.
right.
I also actually host my podcast interviews through Reimagine as well.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you did
I'm
that.
on there quite a bit.
Yeah, you do a lot there. Okay.
I do.
Very good.
So just check out my public portal page through Reimagine.
Okay.
Grieving Coach.
Jenny, and it's a grief coach.
Yeah,
right?
Grieving Coach.
The grieving
Let me
coach.
just pull up real quick what my public portal is.
Yeah, that would be great to know. And yes, right? Isn't why Vonia's stories, she's always like such an addict. When she says yes to any of my events, I'm like, yes, I know it's going to be a wonderful event. So
Jenny is grieving coach. Oh, she's doing a portal now. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm checking what my portal is right now. And also tomorrow night in the Global Grief Conference, I am speaking on the speaking channel at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, talking about the benefits of grief.
Awesome. I will definitely have to look up. This was my big one to get to and get. Now I feel like I can actually look at what else is being offered, because again, as I started this process, I said there's 72 hours starting this early this morning through May 2nd. And there's incredible wealth of presenters and workshops, all to help us through this grieving process. So please check out what is available on their, it's YouTube and also on their Facebook page. And it's, I think you can find both of them at Chicken Fox. I've got to know why it's called Chicken Fox someday. Chicken Fox Productions. Because there's definitely a story to that. You know how I say there's a story in everything. So anyway, I've got to find that out. But I think I know it's on streaming live on their YouTube channel, and it's also on their Facebook page. And again, I don't know how they're doing it because it's a very small team of like 3 or 4 people, something like that. And I am just grateful to be a part of it. And maybe as they continue, I can join the team. So what did you find, Jenny? It's the Grieving Coach is your
Yeah,
portal?
it's letsreimagine.org/organizations /grieving-coach.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I put like I said, I put up all of my events, workshops, podcasts. Everything that I do is usually through Reimagine.
Fantastic. Well,
So,
and I'm going to reach out to you because my next big thing is to get on other people's platforms, meaning other people's podcasts and, YouTube channels and things like that. So I'll be in touch. So thank you very much.
fantastic.
I appreciate it. I know you're jumping off, and Steve.
I am.
Yay. Thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate it. We'll see you this next time.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Chicken Fox. You're amazing.
Yes, thanks. All right. And Steve, you figured out your audio video thing. And so welcome. It was a little bit of a challenge. It's a new thing for me as well. So I usually can mute people. I can invite people in. I can do all of that myself, but I have no control over this. Just going with the flow. But I posted on, I know Steve because he is a longstanding member of a cherished organization that I've been a part of for like over 20 years. It used to be called the Association of Personal Historians, or APH for short. So it's memoir writers, oral historians, video biographers, and other legacy artists like myself, who I consider myself a visual storyteller or a visual artist. But I've known Steve for years. Unfortunately, APH has folded. It went bankrupt. But we are still out here doing this work of preserving and saving and recording and sharing stories of our clients and our loved ones as well when we can do that. So welcome, Steve. I know you said on Facebook that you had a couple of things of some a loved one or two that you'd like to share. So, okay, you gotta take it off mute. You're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. It's Murphy's Law.
Right?
It's always something simple. I've seen a lot of posts over the years where the APH members are now part of a Google group, and we still continue to share, which is something I cherish. It's like ongoing learning that never stops, and it's super. And so I've not done any show and tell myself. I've followed Martie's exploits, and the thought has always been in the back of my mind. I've spent the last 6 years being president of a not-for-profit group here, basically running an annual jazz festival. And you think, well, how tough can that be? Let me tell you, it's like a full-time job. If you don't do something in November, something else won't happen in March, that kind of thing. You're probably all aware of that. Anyway, this was an opportunity once I jumped through all these hoops to get here. And what is that? Oh, yeah, I turned up the volume switch, So, but I wanted to, this is what I'm going to show you is my wife understands this is the one thing we grab if there's ever a fire. I grew up with this clock. It's a Seth Thomas mantelpiece. Let's see if I can, oh no, that won't work. Okay, there it is.
Yep.
It's a Seth Thomas mantle clock. It belonged to my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, she was a World War I bride, and her son, my uncle, got it for her, I think, in 1950. The thing about this clock, and I don't think, I'm looking upside down here at it. I want to open it up, and I don't think you can see, and I'm so sorry, I'm behind it now, and there's
Can see it.
okay, well, anyway, there's some stains here, which are no big deal. And what it used to do was it had a hammer. Well, I'm not even sure what they were. They were rods, we'll say, and then they had a hammer that would hit. Well, after 50 years, 55 years, that died and went away. And then I had a clock guy add some chimes, and they were okay, better than nothing. And it was the Westminster chime, da 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 da, and then at the 3/4 hour, da 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 da, and then finally it would go through all 4 chimes, and then it would chime off the time. Well, then what happened was that went away, and he put something else in, and it really didn't sound like my grandmother's clock anymore. So sadly, I flipped it off. Well, today, just for you, I flipped it on, and I'm going to see what I'm going to do here. And pardon my move this forward and see if it'll chime. And I hope you can see it okay.
Yep.
And I've decided also not to do daylight saving, to keep it on daylight savings time, because I don't want to move the clock backwards. I don't want to jeopardize anything.
Yep.
We'll see what happens. Then I'm going to show you something else, and you can get on with all your. Who knows what's going to happen? It's not chiming right, but of course, you know, it may not. Let's see here. There we go. Anyway, the point is that why it's so memorable is as a child, I went to sleep to this clock, and I woke up to this clock, and so it was very meaningful for me. And it still gets to me, and it was 17, 22, 39, 40 years ago when she died. And I said the only thing I got 2 things, and I'm going to show you the second thing. I said, really, the only thing I want is the clock. And so they gave it to me, and it was on the front seat, carefully guarded, as I drove 7 hours home from Kansas City. And so I wish that thing would chime, but who knows? Anyway,
a watch clock won't chime, just like a pot of water won't boil.
Okay, there we go. I want you to try and see that thing. There we go. Anyway, the point is that what happened is every time I'd hit a bump in the road, the clock would jiggle, and the chimes would all they weren't a formal chime, but they would rattle, and it was just like she was with me, and it reminded me. And boy, I was kind of glad after the 7 hours. It was a very teary ride.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to real quick walk down the hallway and show you something else that I know will work a little better. Of course, this thing will chime as soon as we leave.
Of
so
course
if you'll
it
follow
will.
me,
Of course it will.
if you'll follow me down the hallway, I'm going to be a little dark. That
Okay.
Sunroof or
Awesome.
whatever that is in the ceiling. Let me turn on the light here. That'll help.
Okay.
Oh gosh, it's not going on. There we go. So what we have here is a 1936 General Electric stand-up radio. And I spent in oh gosh, I should know this. 1978, there was literally a radio shop when people cared about radio in Davenport, Iowa. And so I took it in and I said, fix it. And it took him months to find the schematic, but the guy was able to fix it. So for $100, this is, and I'll try and get this right here. Same time. This is a terrible shot. There we go. Anyway, this is, I can do this much better with my phone, but I didn't have Chrome on my phone. So
I know.
there we go. For instance, and I don't know that you
Wow.
can see it very well, but that fabric is original.
Wow.
And up here, these knobs, I'm going to turn it on, and they're inset. And eventually, I can hear a hum. You can't hear it. Eventually, I think this lights up. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is
Wow. Cool.
yeah. And
Completely free.
There we
You can
go.
schedule yours right.
I'm going to turn it down, but I want you. This is not easy.
Wow.
There's the legs, and
Oh my goodness.
if I back up, perhaps you can see the whole.
Let's see more of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Let me.
Oh
I gotta
yeah.
figure this
Much
out.
better.
Anyway, there we go. But now I'm going to show you the piece de resistance. Oh, there. This is lit up. I don't know that you can see this.
Oh yes. Yep.
Oh, good. Because I can't see what I'm trying to show you.
Pointing at.
Yeah.
No, we can
Yeah.
see it.
So now here's my favorite part, and I'm going to turn off the light in this. It's in a guest bedroom, and let's see if the piece de resistance works.
Okay.
Okay, it's working. So I don't know. You're going to look on the
Back. Can't really see anything. No. No. I can't see anything. Can anybody else? No. It's the back of it, but I can't see anything on the back of it. Oh, Steve, you're muted again. You must have hit mute.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. I will. I'm going to show you the back here, the back wall, and I don't know if you can see the tubes are illuminated on the back wall. That's my favorite part, in a way. I mean, the radio looks good. You really can't see it, so we're going to pull this out.
No, not
here.
really.
Okay. And let's see if this shows.
Oh yeah. Now we can see.
Where is
Yep.
it?
Oh my goodness.
So those
So
are those tubes are like from 1978, and I mean it. And I've got like a 50-foot antenna that
Oh
is
my God.
basically a cord that I can roll out. I can get a real strong AM signal. It's only AM, but anyway,
Wow.
that's the back of this 1936 General Electric radio with real tubes. I mean, who has tubes, you know?
I know.
And so, anyway, it's
You do. You do, Steve. You do.
okay. You win. But anyway, it's boy, I wish I could see what I'm showing you. Anyway.
And did you tell us where you got it from?
I'm sorry. No, that is also from my paternal grandmother and
Oh.
grandpa, and that was until they got this television set. You know, probably in the early '60s. This was all they had.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it's a little more interactive than the the chiming clock, which didn't chime for you. Anyway,
And it
those
didn't
are-
chime as you left the living
Yeah.
room either. So at least it
and
didn't.
it wasn't that big of a chime either. But anyway, thanks for letting me show those and share
Oh.
and show and tell and let's see, yeah, show and
Tail.
tails.
Show and tail.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can
Show and
barely read
tails.
that.
Oh, Steve, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you went through all the troubles to get on. I know Y had a little difficulty. I saw her; she was on like in the back room making comments, but I couldn't respond to her comments. So somehow she was in a different section, and I was just like, "What?" So and there was no way to respond. So this is a new platform for me, but I understand that it has the ability to connect with Facebook Live, with YouTube, and with Twitch, which of course I'll have to learn more about as I as I move forward in doing more events that are going to be live streamed. But I do want to pay attention to the time. I know that people have been here for a bit. I just wanted to take 1 minute and share my story. So as I mentioned over this time, my father died early 2020, February 13th in 2020. And then I, as Victoria and I have talked about, is that, you know, when you're not you're not a family member, and you're not you're not a neighbor of someone, you're not close by, you know, you're friends with people that their family may not know about you for one reason or another, because you're not accepted in the family, or you're in a certain part of their life that they don't include, they don't tell their family about. That often what has happened to me is I started getting texts and finding out on Facebook and other social media terms that my friends had died. So when I finally ended up, I sat down, I had just put in a message saying, oh my God, I've lost 8 friends in the last 4 months. I found out, you know, on Facebook after, can we put it on mute? Can we mute? Okay. So I ended up having somebody text me. I sat down, I went and grabbed something to eat. I had a long day. I went and grabbed something to eat. I sat down and I got a text, and it was like somebody responding to my message on Facebook saying, I'm so sorry to hear about Kiki. And I was like, what? You know, I'm like, and so I responded, I'm like, what happened to Kiki? Like, what do you mean what happened to Kiki? Because she was not one of the 8 originals. So anyway, I have this thank you card. Yellow and purple are some of my favorite colors too. And she had gotten, Kiki was so excited about kicking off a channel. I think it was on like Roku. It tells where you can find it, but she did a live event on Facebook. And, you know, we're all very, very busy, right? So we can't get to everything that our friends or our family, our loved ones are doing. It's almost impossible. But I ended up having the time to go to her launch party. So she did a live launch party. And it was just, you know, so, and we had, after the launch party, we had talked, because she and her husband were working on a tiny house community. I think it was Tennessee, for veterans, because her husband was a veteran. And so they were in the process of building their own tiny house, but also looking into buying some land and trying to build a community for veterans. And so we started talking about collaborating, like I'm doing with Victoria right now, who I knew as Vicky, by the way. So, and I always called her No, not Noe, but now I know how to pronounce it. But we were going to collaborate on one of my 24 themes, which is soldiers, sailors, and civilians. So we had started talking about this, and that she was doing a gala event, and, you know, it was going to be online, and we were going to, you know, collaborate on a show and tell about soldiers, sailors, and civilians. And so I got this in the mail, and I swear it was just 2 weeks later that I heard the news that she had passed away. And she was like your person that you talked about, Victoria, early, that she was someone who everybody who was in her energy field, anybody that was around her just loved her and couldn't speak more highly. Anyway, I cherish this, it's just a, postcard, but I cherish it. And it reminds me of, the depth of relationships you can establish with people that you've never met in person. There's lots of people like that, like Y and Gregory at this point. And one of the things that I had done with, I see that Steve had to go, but one of the things I did with Kato Stewart, who's also on Let's Reimagine, she did a thing called Ghost Hike, where she ended up having you cut out leaves. You just use this as a sketch out, and you cut out leaves. And my plan is, I ended up writing down, sadly, now I just lost somebody 3 weeks ago, kind of, out of the blue as well. But I wrote down all of my friends' names, and what Kato and I've talked about, since it's paper, I think it's going to be okay, is that I want to write down the names of each of my friends and then put it into the Rio Grande, where my partner is in Albuquerque. It's not it's not a fast flying thing. I think I should talk to my environmentalist friends and see if it's okay to do it. But and maybe I'll burn it. But I think that there's always environmental impacts. But I am grateful once again to the Let's Reimagine community for this, and I am grateful to all of you for staying over an hour and a half, sharing stories of your loved ones through an object, some writing, your journals that your sister wrote, your ring, your photos, the beautiful photos, and everybody else who ended up, for everybody. And thank you so much to the Chicken Fox production. And I will be following up with you to find out why that name and why that logo, what that means to you, because I'm all about what the stories of the things that we have around us. But I thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And I hope that you have a chance to check out all the other wonderful talks and workshops that are being provided by hundreds of collaborators throughout the weekend. So
will we be able to go back to this one? Will we be able to share this one?
I am not sure why. That
Okay.
was one of the things that I asked. I've been asking, and I think that everything that's on YouTube, like it's being recorded on YouTube.
Okay.
So my understanding is that you should still be, once it's all okay. So they said, yes, once it's all done, once it's all processed, then it will be on YouTube, all the replays. Right now, it's just the live stream. Yes. So that's what I know. So I thank you again. Thank you, Gregory. What a pleasure to meet you. And thank you, Victoria, for collaborating with us. All of this. This was delightful.
You call, I follow.
Okay. All right.
And thank you, Gregory, so much.
Thanks for having me. Great.
Thank you for each one of your stories and making me smile.
Likewise.
Likewise, exactly. You have a great day, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
I guess
Thanks
I'm
again.
getting out of here now.
Okay. Yeah, good luck with that.
Just
We'll figure
turn
out.
me off.
It says a leave studio. You can hit the leave studio at the bottom of the page, I think.
Okay,
There we
got you.
go. All right. Thanks again, everybody at Chicken Fox Productions. Have a wonderful rest of your conference. Bye. Bye.
Bye.